everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, we're going to go over chapter 21, possibly chapter 22, probably not, but this is the second to last chapter of the book of Revelation. This is part of a series where we're going chapter by chapter and then seeing what it says in the Institute manual, just to find out what we can and to go over the book of Revelation. So, we're almost done. Hopefully we can finish it up in this video. I kind of doubt it, but I'm going to try maybe. I'm still kind of debating what to do after we're done with the Book of Revelation. I did a poll before, and overwhelmingly people wanted to do... in fact, let me see if I can find it really quick. Overwhelmingly, people wanted to do the Book of Isaiah next, because I want to kind of like make this... kind of like an ongoing feature of my channel. I wish I could sort it by polls, where we go through the scriptures and then look and see what the church manuals say. I think there's value in doing that because the church manuals go through, here it is, the church manuals go through what's called the correlation process, as well as other church publications, to make sure that everything that's published in them is doctrinally sound. And there was one time I was reading something from, at the time, I think it was at the time, Elder M. Russell Ballard, where he was talking about Sunday school and Relief Society and Elders Quorum, and how he lamented that there's people that kind of like don't stick to church manuals, that they go off and like use like these other sources, because he was on that committee, the Church Correlation Committee, and he saw how rigorous it was and how it's preferable in a church setting to stick to those sources, because that way you know that you're teaching things that are doctrinally sound and not people's opinions and weird theories and stuff like that. Unfortunately, people do that. I think in church, definitely, we should definitely stick to church material. Outside of church, I think it's okay to expand and kind of consider different possibilities. Anyway, so yeah, you can see 67% of you, this is out of 568 votes, wanted to do Isaiah. I don't know why I didn't do it, but I didn't include the book of Daniel on here. And there were a lot of people. Let me do Control F, Daniel. Maybe just 4. it's no. Here's more. It's just okay. Try it again. Can you? Okay. Exit out of that. 11. Okay. Total of 11 votes for Daniel, which still would have been probably more like this. So look. I want to do what you guys want to do. One thing to consider, though, is somebody in the comments mentioned that maybe it'd be best to kind of go with the smallest books first, because like that way we'd go through more books rather than if we went on to Isaiah next. Isaiah is a large book, and it would probably take some time to get through that. So I might put out another poll. I would appreciate your opinion in the comments below, what you think. I was thinking Ezekiel is really good because it talks about the future temple in Jerusalem, and it has a lot to do with the last days and stuff like that. And then Daniel, I wish I had put that on this poll. So I'm going to do a new poll. But think about those things, like should we do it where we do kind of like the shorter books first? That way we go through more books. Or do you want to dedicate the time and do Isaiah first, and then after a while move on to other books? So just different things to consider. Now, I don't have an update right now on the Flood the Earth challenge, because believe it or not, it does take time to find everybody's comments and emails and respond and update the tracker and da-da-da-da-da. And we're doing some celebrating of some stuff today, so I'm just going to be doing this video. I'm not sure if I'll do another one today or not, but that's why I'm not doing it right now. But please let me know when you share the Book of Mormon, and I'll update the tracker. I'll probably get it updated later tonight or something. Okay, so chapter 21, the second to last chapter of the Book of Revelation. Those who overcome will be sons of God. The earth attains its celestial glory. Okay, Now this is where, because like you'll remember, or maybe if you didn't watch the last one, we were talking about essentially the end of the millennium. You know, the millennium when Satan is bound, and then that last part where he's loosed for a small season. So now we're, essentially moving on to the celestial phase of the earth. You know, that's in the distant future, but it's going to be amazing once that happens. Okay, let's get into it. I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And John saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, okay, look, this I think confuses some people, okay, because at the beginning of the millennium, or at the time of the second coming, we know that we have uh, Zion that comes down, meaning the city of Enoch, those people joining with the New Jerusalem that's on the earth, which should not be confused with this event right here. This is some sort of other New Jerusalem. I did a video a long time ago. This was an idea sent to me from Christian Zybarth. Let me see if I can find that really quick. Let's go to your channel. Let's go to playlists. New Jerusalem. As I'm looking for that, essentially the gist of it is that during these 6,000 years, people that have attained people that were worthy to be translated, like Enoch and his city, Melchizedek and his city, and others, they went to wherever that city is right now. And then at the millennium, as the millennium becomes, or as the earth becomes a terrestrial world, or a world in a terrestrial condition, better said, that's when these terrestrial people that had been translated, well, but we learned that they are actually resurrected at this point. That was something that we covered recently. But okay, so anyway, they come, okay, at the time of the second coming, they come. And then later, the theory goes that maybe those that who are celestial and they don't remain on the earth, because we know that resurrected beings and Christ himself are not going to be on the earth the whole time during the millennium. They're going to be somewhere else. So I think that Christian Zybarth is right, that they probably go to this next New Jerusalem, essentially this waiting place as we finish up the millennium, and then they come back at the end and join the rest of us when the earth is celestialized. Yeah, right here, a terrestrial and celestial New Jerusalem. This is the video right here. So I'll put this in the description below in case you want to watch that. Okay, and this is where, well, let's read it first, and then I'll show you. Okay, so, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. Okay, don't confuse that with the city of Enoch. This is at the end of the millennium, and it's probably those celestial people that are be joining with the earth, and more. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, "Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." And just a personal thought here, I think there's going to be a lot of, well, I'm not sure I would call it therapy, but you and I right now, we're going through a traumatic experience. Life is traumatic. You come here and you're exposed to evil. You're treated poorly at certain times in your life by different individuals, sometimes strangers, sometimes people that are really close to you. It's a trauma. This life is a trauma, but things are going to be made right, and we're going to reach that point when, we're going to understand the trials that we went through, see the benefits that we derive from them. We're going to see justice, and don't equate justice with revenge. That revenge isn't the right frame of mind. Justice is. And everything's going to be made right. And like we've talked about before, families are going to be corrected. We're going to have the final family, the grand family of God, where everyone is sealed. Not all human beings, all that are righteous, that have become worthy of exaltation. You'll have that final celestial family, which I think will be a comfort for a lot of people, because you may have grown up with parents that were not celestial, that were abusive, or you may be a person where you're like the only person that's a member of the church, and it's like you see these other families at church that they come from generations of previous generations of members of the church, and they have brothers and sisters and moms and cousins, and comparing them to you, you're just like by yourself on this little island, just you. But in the millennium, you will be grafted in to somebody, and you will have finally that family that you're wanting, that you deserve. You deserve to have a mother and father and sisters and brothers that are righteous, that are worthy of exaltation, And I think that's a lot what Christ is referring to in other parts of the scriptures when it says that you'll have many mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters. Um, it's essentially I think that's mostly talking about how when you reach that final status in the family of God that's sealed, you will have all those things, all those relationships that you may not have at this time. So anyway, all right, let's continue. Yeah, okay. Verse 5, And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I will make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And there came unto me one of the seven angels which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will shew thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and shewed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And it had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. And the city lieth foursquare, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. So if you're taking this literally, which I know some people do, it's a cube. If you were to visualize it, it's a cube. Now, I don't take this as literal, because if you do, you have, let's see, New Jerusalem cube. People have done the measurements. Here we go. Let's go to Bible info. And what you end up with is this. And for some people, this is reality. They think that Earth, okay, I'm talking about members of the church. I'm not just talking about like outside of the church. Although I'm sure that there's people outside of the church that realize that it's symbolic. But for some people, they believe this. They fully expect that Earth is going to look like this when that New Jerusalem comes down out of heaven. So, anyway, I'll leave this. I'll leave this link in the description below in case you want to see this. It looks like they go into the different stones. I would take a lot of this with a grain of salt, though, because this is not a church site. They probably have some of their beliefs from whatever denomination this is, and it may not jive with our doctrine. But so just be cautious as you read that. Okay, and he measured the wall thereof, and 144 cubits, which is interesting because that's the number of the that corresponds in a way with the 144,000 high priests, right? So I think there's a symbolic match, like a relationship between the two. Anyway, according to the measure of a man, that is of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, and the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th a chrysoprasus, the 11th a jacinth, the 12th an amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. That's where we get the term the pearly gates. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl. And the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. And I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. Which, makes sense, because that's what the celestial room represents. That's what the Holy of Holies represents. It represents the presence of God. And if you think about it, essentially in his absence, in his absence of him not actually being here, but you have a connection to him, and his spirit and glory is there, but physically he's not. Anyway, you get what I'm saying, right? And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. Which makes sense, because that kind of sounds like how, those are the standards for the temple. Nothing should go into the temple that would defile it. And at this point, with the New Jerusalem coming down, in the earth receiving its celestial status, it should only be those that are celestial at that point. And it will be. All right, so that is chapter 21. Now, let's see what it says in the Institute Student Manual. Revelation 21, verse 1, a new heaven and a new earth. As part of the fall of Adam, the earth fell from a terrestrial paradisiacal state to a telestial state. And by the way, not to be confused with a glory. Okay, because we're not living in a telestial glory right now. A telestial glory would be a lot better than what we're living in right now. Okay, when Christ returns and wickedness is destroyed, quote, Christ will reign personally upon the earth, and the earth will the earth will be renewed and receive its paradisiacal glory. Articles of Faith, number 10. After the 1,000 years of Christ's reign, the earth will be transformed yet again. So at that point, another new heaven and earth. The prophet Joseph Smith described this change. This earth will be rolled back into the presence of God and crowned with celestial glory. So at that point, it'll go from a terrestrial state to a celestial glory. Okay. And by the way, an interesting thing that goes along with that, I don't mean to be a broken record, but I find this statement so interesting. Okay, let's go down to, this is my quotes A through Z. Let's go to, I think it's this. I think it's under space. Let me zoom in. Okay, so this is that quote that people that are against the church, they like to bring it up and be like, oh, like Brigham Young taught that there were men on the moon and blah blah blah. Let me just read this thing, okay, and I'll give the same interpretation that I've given before. This is in Journal of Discourses, Volume 13, page 268. Who can tell us of the inhabitants of this little planet that shines of an evening called the moon? When we view its face, we may see that it is termed the man in the moon. And what some philosophers declare are the shadows of mountains, but these sayings are very vague and amount to nothing. And when you inquire about the inhabitants of that sphere, you find the most learned are as ignorant in regard to them as the most ignorant of their fellows. Okay, so let me stop here. I've proposed before, and it is my speculation, okay, that, the moon, it is a symbol of the terrestrial kingdom, right? We equate the celestial kingdom with the stars, the terrestrial kingdom with the moon, the celestial kingdom with the sun. I wouldn't be surprised if Enoch and his city, who've been translated, are on the moon, but cannot be seen. I know that sounds wild and crazy, but we know that those that are translated, for example, when we read in the Book of Mormon, the three Nephites, in order for them to appear to people, this is in the Book of Mormon. I think it's in 3 Nephi chapter 28. In order for them to appear to people, they have to pray to the Father for him to allow them to appear to whoever they want to appear to. So it's like their default state is they can't be seen. And I think there's so much more to reality, so much more to, all of existence than what we can see and measure and detect with our instruments. So anyway, with that in mind, okay, instead of talking about like aliens on the moon, like in the Star Trek, Star Wars sense, if you think about inhabitants on the moon as people that have been translated and are awaiting to come back, I could see that being a possibility. And then the same thing with the sun. Look what he says about the sun. So it is with regard to the inhabitants of the sun. Do you think it is inhabited? I rather think it is. Do you think there is any life there? No question of it. It was not made in vain. It was made to give light to those who dwell upon it and to other planets, and so will this earth when it is celestialized. So I don't know if he's indicating there that the earth will become a star, essentially, which flies in the face of astronomy and current understanding of space. But, I don't know that I put too much trust or completely trust science when it keeps changing over time, which is okay. I don't fault it. Like, learning all the secrets of the universe, that obviously takes time. But I don't think that we know as much as we think we know. Right? And so, again, anyway, just let's leave it at that. So, here's this idea that the Earth will become like the sun or potentially a star itself. And it could be that our understanding of space and celestial bodies is radically different and wrong from what reality is. Oh yeah, let me read this next part. Every planet in its first rude organic state receives not the glory of God upon it, but is opaque. If you don't know what opaque is, that's like you can't see through it. So the less opaque something is, the more you can see through it. It becomes transparent. Okay, so everything in its first rude organic state receives not the glory of God upon it, but is opaque. But when celestialized, every planet that God brings into existence is a body of light. But not till then. Christ is the light of this planet. So that's a very curious and very interesting quote. So let's go back to this. The prophet Joseph Smith described this change, quote, "This earth will be rolled back into the presence of God and crowned with celestial glory." And based on what we just read from Brigham Young, it seems like it'll become just like the sun. That's how I understand that. Am I going to like say that's absolutely for sure? No, but I also don't doubt Brigham Young. I think prophets are privy to really special information and occasionally share it with us. Okay, Revelation 21 verses 2 through 27, and then also 22 verses 1 through 5. The holy city, New Jerusalem. Okay, here's a depiction of it. All right, with an angel there to greet you at the entrance. Welcome, traveler. Just kidding. John saw in vision, quote, the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down, end quote, to earth, symbolizing God, okay, now here's the part where I'm going to go with what the manual says. It's gone through the correlation process. Okay. John saw in vision the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down to earth, symbolizing God's presence among his people. And I've already done this exercise with this very... Oh, it's still there. It has all my... Okay, so symbolizing God's presence among his people. Okay. The city was depicted as an enormous cube, like we were just looking at right here. An enormous cube. An enormous cube, which recalls the Holy of Holies in Solomon's temple, because the Holy of Holies was a cube. So we're using symbolic language. Also representative of God's dwelling place. The symbolic elements John saw that compose the city, clear glass, precious stones, pearls, and gold, share the traits of reflecting light, resisting decay or tarnishing, and symbolizing purity, beauty, and refinement. The walls of the city were made with all manner of precious stones. Precious stones often represent the Lord's followers who have been refined and made holy. So I'm not so sure that this is going to be a literal cube that looks like this, that's going to be adorned with all sorts of metals, that's going to cover pretty much the entire United States or most of it. I don't think so. This is a this is like a spiritual truth that's being communicated. It's giving you an idea, like if you're living back in the time of John and you're thinking about the Holy of Holies, realizing that it's a cube, and he's trying to describe to you the future, what things are going to be like at the end of the millennium. It's going to be like, look, that Holy of Holies that's right there, that only the high priest can go into once a year. It's not going to be like that anymore. The presence of God is going to be all over. It's going to be for everybody's going to be in it. You know, everyone's going to be refined. The state of the world at that point is going to just be beautiful compared to how it is right now. The gates of the city were made of pearls and the streets of gold. Both pearls and gold can be seen as symbols of refinement. Oysters produce pearls through pain and adversity, and gold requires fire to burn out impurities. The exalted will likewise have been refined through adversity. Yeah, because at this point, it's only celestial people that are going to be around, and they'll have to have gone through all these trials in life and prove themselves worthy of exaltation. Okay. There's no need of temples in the holy city because all of the celestial kingdom will be as a temple. God himself and Jesus Christ God himself and Jesus Christ dwell there. There's no need of the sun there, for the Lamb is the light thereof. And then again, according to Brigham Young, it seems that the world in its celestial glory will be essentially a sun, and its power received from Christ. But we have this interesting concept in the book of Abraham where essentially stars receive their power and light from higher up stars. So, like for example, Kolob. Um, why don't I just read it? I'll have to zoom out so I can get to this. Go to scriptures. Go to Pearl of Great Price. I still don't really have my facsimiles down. Okay, facsimile 2. So look at this. Kolob, signifying the first creation nearest to the celestial or the residence of God. First in government, the last pertaining to the measurement of time. The measurement according to celestial time, which celestial time signifies 1 day to a cubit. 1 day in Kolob is equal to 1,000 years according to the measurement of this earth, which is called by the Egyptians Ja-o-e. Okay, number 2 stands next to Kolob, called by the Egyptians Oliblish, which is the next grand governing creation near to the celestial or the place where God resides, holding the key of power also pertaining to other planets as revealed from God to Abraham as he offered sacrifice upon an altar which he had built unto the Lord. Okay, go down. Okay, figure 5 is called in Egyptian Inish Go'ondash. This is one of the governing planets also, and it is said by the Egyptians to be the sun and to borrow its light from Kolob. So again, that goes against astronomy because astronomy says that essentially the sun is a large nuclear reaction that's taking place. There's fuel inside of it. I think it's primarily helium and hydrogen. I can't remember, but it's going through that fuel, and it's going through a nuclear fusion process, not fission, but fusion, and eventually it'll burn out, and that's why we have light. But according to this, the sun borrows its light from Kolob. Now, who knows what that means? You know, it could be much, much, much more complicated and technical than just borrowing light from Kolob, but that's what it says. It borrows its light from Kolob through the medium of Kai A Venrash, which is the grand key, or in other words, the grand governing power, which governs 15 other fixed planets or stars, also called Flo Iis, or the moon, the sun, the earth and the sun in their annual revolutions. This planet receives its power through the medium of Kli Flos Is S, or Ha Kokao Biam. The stars represented by numbers 22 and 23 receiving light from the revolutions of Kolob. So this is clearly stuff that we don't really understand, but I think what you can get from this is that power and light come from a more central source, which is from where God the Father resides. Does that make sense? So, as we're here, and we're talking about there is no need of the sun there, for the Lamb is the light thereof, that makes sense. Because in Facsimile 2, it talks about how essentially it seems that God the Father himself and Christ are the source of light. Okay, and then the earth itself will become a place of light, possibly a star. I know that this is all like really crazy stuff, but I hope you're like tracking what I'm saying. John saw that a central feature of the holy city was the tree of life, representing the healing and eternal life found in the celestial kingdom. The tree of life in the Garden of Eden was guarded by cherubim after the fall. But those who dwell in the holy city have been redeemed from the fall. In all there are free to partake of the ever-bearing tree of life in the celestial kingdom. Okay, so it looks like that's it. Oh, no. Okay, I don't know, for a second there I was thinking that we were in chapter 20. Okay, so now Revelation 21 verses 4 through 5. No more tears, death, sorrow, or pain. Revelation 21 verse 4 highlights the great restorative power of Christ's atonement, which will ultimately make all things right. Through the atonement, all of life's disadvantages, contradictions, injustices, and unfairness will be made right. Elder Richard G. Scott of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles affirmed, quote, "The atonement will not only help us overcome our transgressions and mistakes, but in his time, it will resolve all inequities of life, those things that are unfair, which are the consequences of circumstances or others' acts and not our own decisions." End quote. That's going to be a beautiful thing to witness, you guys. Revelation 21 verse 7, he that overcometh. Revelation 21:7 echoes the promise of exaltation found in Revelation chapters 2 through 3 to those who overcome. In Revelation 21:7, the promise of inheriting quote-unquote all things does not mean that those who are exalted will no longer worship God. The relationship of God to each of us. Okay. The relationship of God to each of his exalted children is still clear. I will be his God, and he shall be my son. For information on worshiping Heavenly Father in the eternities, see the commentary for Revelation chapter 4, verses 8 through 11. Okay. I don't think that's too confusing. That makes sense. Revelation 21:8, the second death. For information about the second death, okay, we don't need to do that. And then it goes on to Revelation 22. So, hopefully that all made sense. I felt we went to a few kind of weird places in this, but we are talking about a very distant time in the future when things are going to get like really real, when this earth becomes celestialized. It's just like, it's really mind-bending things to think about. To think about the world, because another thing, I don't know if this talks about it in the next chapter, but the earth becoming as a sea of glass and a Urim and Thummim, and what Brigham Young said about not being opaque anymore. It sounds like just wild in a good way. We have some really good things to look forward to, and it's exciting. So yeah, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.